All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live streaming.
Trending Insurrection.
I'm gonna have to put these headphones on to hear your newfangled audios, huh?
Yeah, you're gonna need your headphones, buddy. Usually we don't use headphones, but
Well, we have it up till this point, right? So
yeah, no.
we have a new thing that is going to be. Oh, and you know what? My green is definitely highlighting. I put the green on this back when it was a podcast and nobody could see anything to keep, tell the difference between my headphones and anybody else's headphones. But now it looks weird on the camera. Okay, well, we'll have to figure that out later.
Yeah, it just means you're special.
So,
You're special. And now that we're
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
now that we're doing it live,
we didn't steal that from anyone. We didn't get that idea from anybody else. We definitely came up with that sounder all by ourselves on our own,
do it live.
separate from anybody else who might also commonly utilize the do it live sounder.
There's so many.
Yeah, so actually there is somebody I watch, Matt Christensen, uses the do it live sounder a lot, and he enjoys it. I enjoy it on his show, and so I think that was part of where we got that from, and we kind of knew it existed because of that. But anyway, we are going to talk today a little bit about the silence is consent. I don't know if it's a motto or a movement. It's associated with BLM. I think they haven't really thought this one through very well, because my question was, how does the Me Too movement feel about this concept that silence is consent? And I think this is a really terrible, terrible idea, because if obviously silence is not consent. I mean, that's just what you have to say. Just because I maintain silence about something, there's a lot of things Trump does I don't necessarily talk about. I'm just like, whatever. So, but that doesn't mean that like I wholeheartedly endorse or condone or even consent to, the various things he does. And the other day, I'll give another example. It was what's her name? The the Who's the Boss kid, Alyssa Milano, right?
Yeah.
She actually got quite a reaction out of me. She posted a video of something that was terribly egregious, and then said, not just the right, not conservatives, but she said constitutionalists do not care about this. And I was like, excuse me, this is the first time I've seen this. Where do you get off saying that constitutionalists don't care about the violation of people's rights? That's absurd. That's like the only thing a constitutionalist would care about. And you're going to come out and say that we don't care about it because we haven't reacted in the 30 seconds that it took you to react, and you've seen it now and you've reacted, and we haven't reacted in time, so now all of a sudden we don't care about it. So that's kind of this idea, like silence. If I haven't said something about something yet, that somehow I condone it. That is not the case, right? That is a terrible standard.
Wait.
It is the idea that inaction somehow makes me culpable, where I think action is required for culpability.
Wait.
No, I wanted to finish that. I got it out. I'm done.
Wait.
Yeah, what do you think?
Wait. All right. Now, let's start with Trump.
What about Trump?
You said, well, I disagree with some of the stuff that Trump does.
Yeah, sure.
And because I haven't said anything that's not consent. Yeah, but Trump's not trying to stick his tongue down your throat. It's different.
Very true.
Okay, so I'm going to paint another picture for you that's more apropos to what the situation, that's situational. Okay. You and a young lady are on a date. No, that's not true. I'm not even making a date. You invite me to go out for some food. And you say, we're going to do Chinese. I say nothing. I get in the car, sit next to you, and we go to have some food. We go to the Chinese restaurant. We sit, have a meal. I eat the meal. We talk. We have whatever we do.
Okay.
Pay the tip.
Uh-huh.
We leave. Then I call you up the next day. Dave, what were you thinking? You selfish. I need to call your name. What's the name I can say? You selfish, I'll say selfish, mean person. I can come up with other adjectives. How could you? You're an inconsiderate friend, man. You boob. I hate Chinese food. And your first question would be, when I said we were going to Chinese food, why didn't you say anything? That's what the silence is consent is trying to get at. Because what happens is, you're in a relationship, you go through the motions, and I believe that should be situational. You go through the motions, and then after it's all said and done, you have buyer's remorse or whatever.
Okay,
and then
well
you
let me tell you why you're wrong here.
I'm not wrong. I'm sorry.
No,
I know
no.
I'm not wrong.
This is so silence is consent. Is the idea that without any additional action, you're culpable because you didn't say anything about it.
Yeah.
Right. It's the idea that a video exists and you haven't denounced the actions on the video, therefore you don't care about this, and that's how it's being applied in your scenario. You got in the car, you sat down, you ate lunch or dinner or whatever, and you took several actions that made you culpable in that, and it doesn't make any sense the next day for you to be upset.
Wait.
Look, so
How many wives have done that to husbands?
that's not my problem.
But my point is that at some point in some relationships, silence does mean consent. In some
No.
situations,
Okay,
silence
but-
can mean consent. In
But
some
you're
situations.
taking silence and then actions in support of, right? So this is like the concept of a conspiracy. If you are engaged in a conspiracy, in order for that to happen, or for order for that to work, you have to take some action furthering the conspiracy. So if you're going to be complicit in a silent agreement,
Yeah.
it can be said that if you're silent but you take steps in order to further the agreement with a person, that you are now assenting to that agreement.
Okay, many people have said that Trump's silence when it comes to certain civil rights issues are consensual, saying that since he's not talking about it negatively, he must not have a problem with it. So
I mean, you could say that, but hey, these are the same people that say that Trump is ignorant of freaking everything, right? So why isn't it just silence is ignorance? Silence means he doesn't know anything about the topic, so he's not saying anything about the topic.
Okay. It could be for certain things, but
I
my
think
point
for-
is that for Super Tweet, his new name is Super Tweet. For Super Tweet, I think that hasn't stopped him before. My only point is that I agree with you saying. I agree with you saying to a point. Some situations, silence is not consent. In other situations, it kind of is.
No. Silence is never consent. Listen, here's my ultimate blow it out of the water argument. If you take that into court and you're accused of let's say a crime of passion, and you try the argument that silence is consent, you are going to lose.
No, wait.
You are going to lose.
That implication is silent. In what situation am I taking to court? Give me a situation. How does that work?
Let's say the young lady has had too much to drink, passes out, and you do what you will.
That's different.
She's
That's-
silent.
that's
She's silent.
that's-
Therefore,
that's
she's
different.
consenting.
Yeah, if I gag you and you're silent. In other words, if there are no, so that's what I'm saying. It's situational. If there are no pre-existing.
Okay.
So it's like, as I said, sometimes.
So
remember
like I said, if you take
sometimes
action-
silence is consent.
If you take specific action furthering the agreement,
But how
then sure, consent.
But how many guys and gals have gotten in trouble even with that? How many times have if I sleep with one of my
But
subordinates?
this is a standard that it can't be true, right? So for this to be true, it has to always be true. Is silence consent? No, it is not.
Sometimes it is.
No, silence itself is never consent.
Sometimes
Taking
it
an action
is.
in silence to further something may indicate agreement. Like, for instance, if you say, kiss me, and a girl doesn't say anything, yes, I will kiss you now. But she actually does initiate a kiss, then fine. That's agreement.
Well,
And it's silent agreement, but there's not. It's not silent in the full respect, because there's body language and there's an entire
sorry, but
form of communication that exists outside of spoken word.
I agree with you, but sometimes silence is still consent.
What if you're mute and you don't even have the ability to talk?
That's different. They're pre.
But it's not
I said
different. The
sometimes
point is,
silence is consent.
okay. I don't even think you can ever imply or infer consent from silence itself. There must be something additional, something in addition to the silence, in order to achieve or to prove that there is some kind of consent or assent to a thing.
I would say that realistically, sometimes silent is consent.
Okay.
Silence is consent.
So you still haven't given me an example,
I've given you
of
examples.
when
You ju-
silence would be
just
consent.
because you received them.
Just because I blew them out of the water.
No, you didn't
So-
blow them out of the water. You blew nothing out of the
Okay,
water.
okay,
The ship
but
is still sailing.
listen to what I'm saying. Silence by itself cannot be consent, and you cannot give. No,
not-
wait. You cannot give me an example where the consent is inferred because of the silence without any additional activity.
Okay, I'll give you an example. I'm
Okay,
making one up off the cuff.
I'm looking for the example.
You don't have to accept it, but that you're wrong
I
for
will
not
probably
accepting it.
now. I will probably listen.
You're wrong for
if
not
I
accepting
don't
it.
accept it, we'll see. We'll
Okay,
see what
okay.
the audience thinks.
Well, okay. Here's another example. I'm going to spend time with my friends tonight.
Okay. And I'm going to. Is consent required from the person you're talking to?
Yes.
Is it really?
Yes.
Or are you just whipped?
it could be parents.
Okay.
You walk out the door and you look at your mom and dad. They say nothing,
Uh-huh.
and then you leave.
Mm.
Silence is consent. Silence in that situation, silence is definitely consent. Now, my point is that as I said, it's situational. Sometimes silence is consent.
Okay.
Now,
Okay, you've got one example.
Wait a
And
second.
I will tell you how I think that works.
Go on.
I think that works because you have an authority, and the authority, when someone has authority, and this is actually biblical. There's a biblical, whatchamacallit, precedent for this. Yeah. So if somebody has has authority, and you tell them you're going to do something, and they, it's not like behind their back, hey, mom and dad, I'm going to do. But they look at you, and it's just not natural for them to say nothing. But let's suppose
But they don't say anything.
I don't think it would be very natural. I think they would say like have a good time or something like that.
Sometimes they don't.
But okay, but let's say let's say that they are intently watching a movie.
No intention. I'll give you another one. Same thing. I'm the president of the United States.
Well, I'm gonna call BS on this,
I
whatever it is.
I find out. Okay.
Uh-huh. Okay.
You come to me as my chief of staff
Yeah,
or the head of the CIA,
sure.
and you say, we're going to shoot. We're going to shoot the terrorists in charge of.
Let me tell you
so-and-so.
why that never happens.
Okay.
You do not come to me as the president and tell me you're going to shoot somebody. You come to me and ask for permission. And if you don't get that permission, then you don't have permission. There is no, hey, we're just going to shoot this guy real quick, just letting you know. That's not how it works, especially with the military. If there's a kill order, that kill order has to be run past the president of the United States. And
Not with the CIA.
yeah,
buddy.
it does. Yes, it
Not
does.
with the CIA. Nope. Sorry.
It does.
Okay.
And
You
if
can
they're
believe
killing
that.
people, they're doing kill orders.
Of course they
without,
are.
If they're no, but they're not. Actually, this is the thing that came down under Obama. We know for a fact that every single kill order got presidential approval. And we know that because one of those kill orders was an American citizen in Yemen, I believe,
That is the most, after all the CIA movies we've all seen.
Doesn't matter. Movies are movies, and this is real life.
In real
And
life,
the
we know
real,
that the CIA is not telling the president, any president, everything
if
that they do.
if
In
the,
real life,
if
we know
the
that.
CIA
Oh,
is
come
killing
on.
people without the direct authority, without the direct permission of the president of the
Really?
United States, they have committed a crime,
That
and
is
they
the
will
most
be
naive
tried
thing
for
I've
it.
ever heard you say, sir.
If,
wow.
if anybody finds out, they'll be tried for it. I
Well,
mean, they could be prosecuted.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay. Anyway.
Okay, listen. If you
Okay.
are doing stuff in secret that is not being run past the president, then you're not really serving the United States. I mean, that's how it works. If you're just out there assassinating people in secret for your own personal reasons, you are not serving the U.S.
Okay.
You're not serving the interests of the U.S.
Okay, so anyway,
You're
okay.
not serving the authority that is properly appointed in the U.S.
Okay. Anyway. So maybe that example won't work. But my point
Oh,
is.
it doesn't, definitely.
Okay, yeah, I get it.
Okay.
The other one did. So all I'm saying.
Well, the other one was a little unnatural, but it works, but unnaturally so.
Not really. It's not unnatural.
Right,
Some-
so-
that could conceivably happen in the lives of a parent and child. That's conceivable. It could happen. My point
Well,
is that
I would say this. Here's the thing, though. The biblical precedent we talked about was that if a woman or if a wife was making business deals,
yeah,
and then she says to her husband, "Hey, I've made this deal with somebody,"
yeah,
he has that moment, that opportunity in this particular legal structure to disallow it. If he doesn't disallow it at that moment, then it's allowed, right? So silence at that point would be considered consent in that particular legal framework.
Okay, wait. Okay, so all we're saying, I'm just throwing a caveat. I don't really believe in certain absolutes when it comes to the law. I believe that everything is situational.
Well, you see, but the thing is, this is so highly situational as to not be a principle of law. In other words, the vast majority of the time, 99% of the time, this statement is wrong. It's untrue. So the idea that silence is consent doesn't work in almost any situation where consent is actually required.
Well,
What?
I don't think so. I
Okay,
disagree with
listen, are you
I can think of so many situations just off the cuff in everyday life that silence is consent. But my point is that either way,
you can think of them, but you can't tell me about them. That's crazy.
I can tell you about them. We don't have enough time. There's so many. Okay.
Well, just
but
pick like one.
I
good
already
one.
picked one. I
Oh,
can pick
okay, you
another one.
did.
Anything.
Yeah, but it was very unnatural. That's the thing. Like
That
I
was
would
not unnatural.
Okay,
That's
my
just-
parents would have either said yes or no.
You don't
like
have the
they
only
wouldn't.
okay, but
they wouldn't just remain silent
But
and
that's
expect me
not
to
the
figure
mo-
out what they
That's
mean.
not the model. Your parents and your relationship.
No, but that's what I'm
is
saying.
Not
It's
the model.
not
is not
natural.
The model. That is natural for some parents. That might be.
Well, I don't.
Not for yours, mind you. Maybe not for mine.
I don't
but-
know any parents that would be like that
But
with
you
their
don't
kid.
know all the parents.
I
So
don't
my-
know all the parents. That's true, but I know a certain cross section of parents. I know a sampling of parents.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't know any parents that would just not say anything.
Okay.
It's not human.
I'm sorry.
It's
that's
not human
even
to just be
true.
quiet. Just be
That's
like,
not even true.
hey, mom, dad, I'm going.
Oh, wives and husbands do that with each other all the time. Silence is consent. Okay, at times.
Okay, that sounds
is-
like a terrible relationship to me.
No, that's just never
Not
mind.
even a have fun, babe. Like
Sometimes
have
you-
fun, honey.
sometimes it's the-
Enjoy yourself. I hope you have a great time out tonight with your
Not
friends.
all the time. Anyway,
Like it's not even that. Like, hey, you know what? Truthfully, I would rather you not go out with Karen. She's kind of a slut, and I don't want that rubbing off on you. Well, actually, wait a minute. Depends on what. There's actually two usages of that term, and
Don't slut shame, please. Thank you. I just can't deal with the bad press.
oh,
No
listen.
slut-shaming.
There are two methods of the term, or two uses of the term, right? One is a woman who will do anything with any man, or will do certain things with any man.
Oh yeah.
The other is a woman who will do anything for her man. So there's a little difference there.
A
There's
woman
like a
who will do anything for her man will never be called a slut.
depends.
No.
It depends.
No, not.
There-
not-
there are
that's
certain
not the
people
meaning
who-
of the word.
Oh well, listen. I can guarantee you
Yeah.
that there are the colloquially that is a term. That is a meaning that I picked up from other people's usage of the word. So don't think that no one uses it like that. Other people
I didn't
do.
say that. I'm
Okay,
just
but,
saying.
in other
for
words-
for the natural use of the word.
Okay,
a
so
a male
the
slut or a
first
woman slut
term-
is somebody who sleeps around.
Well, there's no such thing as a male slut.
Oh wow, really?
You know that. You know that.
Okay, wow.
Right? I mean, you've heard that a key that unlocks any lock is a master key, and a lock that can be opened by any key is a terrible lock. You've ever heard that? I've heard that, and I'm not
Okay.
even in those
I don't
circles.
subscribe to some of
It
your.
seems like a logical argument to me. I don't
do
I
not
don't know.
subscribe.
I mean, it's not a
to
subscribe or not subscribe. It's like
that-
it's an argument,
that
and the
exam- that
argument
example-
seems
I'm sorry,
obviously
but
true, like
that
prima facie truth, man.
that example
On its face,
models principles that
on
I
its face.
fundamentally disagree with. Nonetheless,
Okay.
I'll allow. Who cares? Okay, let's
Oh,
say
thank you.
Lock
We'll allow
and lock and key, fine. Okay, fine. There's so much to talk about. Okay, we'll let that one go too. All I can say is, I just silence can be, and for all other points though. I mean, in all seriousness, for all of the points of silence is not consent, I can say that in most cases I agree with you. Silence is not consent. Unless you've had enough time to argue or to retort or to reply. And even then, if I'm a politician and I hear a smear and that somebody smears me, sometimes politicians will opt to just not say anything. They don't want to say, you know what? I'm not going to lower myself to that. I'm not even going to respond to it. Should we respond to it? Nope. Do not respond to it. Say nothing. Let's move on. Talk about the issues and just move on. So sometimes that's a technique, and that doesn't mean you agree. Silence is not agreeing. So yeah, I can see where you're coming from. In a lot of cases, silence most definitely is not consent. In a lot of cases, definitely in relationship cases, because of the Me Too movement, and because of so many abuses of power. Now, I believe that in relationships, before you sleep with somebody, you should say, you need to have a form in triplicate. I agree to this endeavor. Fill it out, please. I agree to this endeavor, or I agree to this relationship, or I agree to sleeping with this person. Fill it out, and go on, go up to it. I agree to date this person. This person, I'm not coerced in any way. This is what you have to do now.
All right. Well,
I mean, so in this situation, because of the way we've made things, I believe that now, for anything, I agree to. You're not bullying me by, there's no, especially if you're dating a subordinate.
the thing is, people talk about having like a written agreement, and I don't think that works. And here's the reason, right? You can actually sign a document saying that you consent to something, and then afterwards decide that you don't any longer consent to it. So between the time you sign a document and the time that an activity occurs, there can be a change of heart, change of mind, and it doesn't really give you any protection to have a signed document if somebody says, yeah, but I changed my mind after I signed the document. So, I mean, it's one of those difficult things to deal with.
So you're in the dating world.
Yeah.
What do? You're with a young lady.
Uh-huh.
And especially if you become rich and famous.
Well, I mean,
you're with a young lady, and she wants and you want to take her out.
well, you just got to film the whole thing. Yeah, that's the way it works nowadays. And that's people do that, and then they save all of their recordings privately on various websites. That other people may or may not be able to view them on. And yeah, that's how it works. That's the new thing.
Well,
I'm teasing, of course.
Well,
I'm
know
teasing.
that you are being recorded. Do you consent to for this copulation to be recorded? Yes, I do. Check. Check. Please sign the waiver. Check. Form number 2. Number 2. Is there any problem with your likeness being on?
You see, the problem with that, though, is in addition to the fact that it doesn't protect you unless you literally videotape the entire encounter, is that also that's not natural. Like, that is not how people get together.
Okay.
That's not how
Let me
people.
stop you right there. It
Yeah?
needs to be. It needs to be. I'll tell you why. Because
No. It doesn't need to be.
It
And in
needs to
fact, it is not, and it will never be, because that's just not human nature.
Listen, it needs to be. It needs to be.
No.
You know why? Because I'm tired of the belly aching.
You know what it needs to be?
And
it
the
needs to be.
caterwauling.
No. This is what needs to happen. People need to be innocent until proven guilty, and then, that's it. That's the standard. And so, just because some woman said, "Oh, I didn't like what happened," that doesn't mean that something bad happened. The standard is innocent until proven guilty. Listen, Joe Biden was recently accused of a certain activity that was completely non-consensual,
Bad
and
Uncle Joe.
I would love to just nail him, but I can't really. I'm not really 100% sure that he did this thing. I suspect that she's telling the truth, but part of that's probably my bias, and
Uncle
part of it.
Joe? Come
Listen,
on,
no,
leave
part of it's
Uncle
probably my
Joe
bias.
alone.
Part of it's probably the fact that I know that the men who call themselves feminists are more likely to be attackers than men who actually just call themselves, men and say, "Hey, listen, I like women. That's all there is to it." But and then the other thing is, she has a lot of corroboration.
Should I let him go with that story? With that
She has a
statement?
lot. Well, yeah.
I'll let him go. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll let
You
it
gotta
go.
let me go with that.
I'll let it go. I'll let it go.
Listen, there's a meme called "Reset the Clock." You know what that's about?
Yeah, no, please tell me.
That it comes from this whole workplace accident concept where
Yes, sir.
it's been 0 days or it's been 100 days since the last lost work time incident.
Yeah.
Well, that's the memes are it's been 0 days since the last male feminist attacked a woman and stuff like that. So it's reset the clock because it happens freaking constantly, and they're constantly having to reset that particular clock. It's been 0 days since the last time a male feminist has attacked a woman. And there's a whole meme about it. There's a whole understanding on the internet. It happens all the time. If you go look up any date, you'll be able to find one of these examples.
What bothers me most is that
Different things at different times, apparently.
yeah, a lot of things. I mean, about the whole about the idea that there's a prevailing idea that sex is free and it's fun.
Well, at least it's
And-
fun.
And
Listen, you can't. All right, you just put out two.
that
Two
sex is free and it's fun.
two characteristics of sex. All right, now first of all, it should be fun. If you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong, right? Now, as far as free goes, I don't know when the last time you paid for sex, but generally speaking, I don't pay. It's free.
You always pay.
It's
man.
okay.
You always
Up
pay.
front, it's free. There may be a cost to the back end, but here's the thing.
Dude!
You just have all you have to do
There-
is take responsibility for your own actions,
Dude.
but it's still a
It's
free activity.
Expensive. Sex is the most expensive thing that you will ever do.
Said a married man.
Well,
Listen, there
I
are
said a married
two,
man. It's-
biologically speaking, there are two strategies. One is to settle down and couple with a woman, become a pair and have kids. That's great. There is another strategy
Yeah.
that men like to. It is such a great strategy, and when it is available to a man, it is almost impossible to turn down. It is just such a great, easy strategy, and that is a woman who is willing to let you have sex with her for no particular. You know what? We did not. Okay. This live stream is not for children, but we did not age restrict it. But anyway, point is, if you have the opportunity to have
Congress.
an interaction with a woman,
Yes, go on.
and there is nothing required from you on the back end, that is such a good deal from a evolutionary psychology standpoint, from a evolutionary biology standpoint,
Yeah,
that I've
sure.
heard people talk about this. It is not a thing that men want to turn down. If you get that deal, most men, 99.999% of men will take it, and that is one of the reasons that men almost always are looking for that deal. It's such a great deal.
Sex will cost you more than you
Okay,
expect.
but
will
But-
keep you longer than you plan to stay.
Listen, I personally, I'm not a big proponent of the strategy,
Don't
but I
take
understand.
that deal, dude.
I understand
Ma'am.
the
Ma'am,
that
don't take
it's-
that deal.
I understand the attraction of it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
it's an
because-
attractive deal.
Because it always because one of the issues that we're dealing with, and is that if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
But historically, it has not been too good to be true. It has been true for you know what? I know a guy. He's one of these what they call F boys, and you know you guys at home you'll know what that is. And he is the guy that women throw themselves at. It happens all the time. He goes anywhere, and there is always a woman willing to throw themselves at him. And he's actually talked to me about things, and he's explained that, like, basically that particular, like, activity that every guy is trying to do, like, he doesn't really care about it. It just happens for him so often that he's just like, whatever, it's not a big deal. I'm more into other things. You know, he's more into, you know, going out and, like, basically trying to kill himself. He's also an adrenaline junkie, and you know, like not too long ago, he went and kicked a shark in the ocean. It was a baby shark.
Do you,
all right,
do you
it was a baby
think
shark,
that that might be part of the attraction, the fact that he
Oh.
is mantastic?
but to those who have, more will be given. Absolutely, that is definitely part of the attraction.
But yeah, it's part. I mean, come on. I mean, everybody likes.
It feeds back upon itself.
Yeah, everybody likes an adventure man. Even you could be a not so good looking adventure man, and you start a conversation. I was swimming with sharks this week, and guess what happened?
I kicked
guarantee-
one.
And I kicked one.
Yeah.
Every air
Well, he
in
got-
the room will go.
Okay, but to
What
be
did-
fair, he got bit on the foot, so it's not necessarily a smart thing to do.
Oh, well, my point is that I mean, there's certain sentences, certain sentences that will always attract men and women
Okay,
admirers.
but he's also
Good looking.
like he's moderately attractive.
Okay,
I don't
so-
find him attractive, but the women do.
Yeah,
But here's the
okay,
thing.
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
but he's also not that bright. Like I mean, and he's probably one of our 4 subscribers.
He's
at
a
this point.
mimbo.
No. But he's
Is he a
okay.
mimbo?
Let me explain
Is
this.
he a mimbo?
He has actually had a motorcycle accident, which diminished his mental capacity.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
Which,
That's not good.
by the way, brought him down to about average. So, like, he still has
that's
plenty
sad.
of parts of his faculty that are above average, right? And so there are some parts that are like below average, like the part
wait,
where
Dave,
Yeah.
Dave, give me a second.
Uh-huh.
I need to express how I feel about this. Okay, there you go. I need to get that out. Okay, move on.
okay,
I think that's really sad. That's sad. My cousin died in a motorcycle accident.
oh well, my
That-
uncle
that's-
almost died in a motorcycle
Yeah,
accident.
that's so sad. Okay, so I am sorry.
There we go.
For calling you a mimbo. I don't know who you are, but
Okay.
sorry for calling you a mimbo.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't-
This
I
is
didn't
this
mean
is
that.
why he's
Sorry.
staying
I
anonymous at this
apologize,
point,
man.
right? Because we're talking about him, and I'm letting out all the details.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I'm so sorry, man.
no, but I mean, here's the thing: like, he does things that I just think, wow, I would never do that. I would absolutely never do that because I have, the self-preservation instinct.
Yeah,
that- I
yeah.
mean, I would not go. Well, okay, but again, even the kicking a baby shark story, like there was apparently a kid in the water, so he was going to protect the kid, which is a very noble thing. But at the same time, like that's just like one story of like how he lives.
He's
And
adventure man.
He is adventurous.
Adventure man.
And of course, I don't think he rides anymore. Like he doesn't ride a motorcycle anymore because
Yeah.
he basically he did almost die. So like I don't think
Yeah.
he's doing it anymore.
Good.
But my point is, if you're that guy and you are getting that opportunity on a regular basis, probably you're going to take it. Like it's very likely.
Yeah, the fact is that, and then sometimes you won't take it because you're tired of the fallout that can happen.
Oh, he's had plenty of fallout. And he's
Because after a while, when you get older, especially, you start thinking, too much fallout. Yeah, I can't
Well-
deal with especially, and it depends. There's always that one girl or that one guy who knows how to manufacture hell really well. in your direction.
Oh, yeah. You
There's
mean,
you always
now you're talking about his ex-girlfriend.
you see there's always that one person who has your number and says, "Oh, I'm gonna get you good." What do
Well,
you mean, you know? And
so-
wow, yeah.
I don't know that. I don't know that I want to keep talking about him because, I mean, he is just a great example of that, where there's always that opportunity, or like if you were given that opportunity, you usually take it.
Yeah,
but
most people.
here's the thing, though. Like that opportunity is not available to most men most of the time. Like he's the guy who can manufacture that opportunity almost anywhere he goes instantly, right? So like he's like very tall, muscular, somewhat attractive, and he knows how to talk to ladies because he's been in situations where enough ladies have talked to him that he knows what to talk to him about.
That's
and
good,
he knows
good stuff, man.
Yeah, he knows. He knows how to push that.
Could you be talking about amalgamations of yourself? Are you saying that you're a ladies' man? Ladies' man? Are you a ladies' man?
So I am not a ladies' man.
Are you?
I know how to talk to ladies, and and here's the thing,
okay, there you go.
especially if I get into a situation where I'm talking to a girl one-on-one,
Go on.
in private, late night, maybe over text, over the phone, stuff like
Yes,
that,
yeah.
and I've already found out that she's into like the kind of things that I'm into,
C'est bon.
I can talk to her.
The
Right?
romance.
I can do. I can definitely talk to women. I have particular interests, and I
Please
can
don't share them.
definitely push in those areas.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
trying not to be too graphic because obviously we don't want to.
This is keep it Disney.
Listen, there's nobody watching.
Keep
but
it Disney.
if there was somebody watching, maybe
Keep
it would
it
be a
Disney.
kid, and so we wouldn't want to, say anything to them that.
They might repeat to their parents, "Mom, what does this mean?" So yeah.
No, let
keep
them repeat it to their parents.
keep
That's
it-
probably the only thing I don't care about.
Keep it Disney.
Yeah, but
Keep it Disney.
magical.
Magical.
I was actually talking to somebody. That is a great segue. My parents lost me at Disney when I was a kid.
Go on.
Do you know that? And it was not a magical experience.
No, why not?
It was absolutely not a magical experience. Well, because first of all, okay, so like there's a crowd. My parents started walking. I didn't realize they were walking. I took like 2 steps in a direction. A train came. After the train crossed, or after the tram or trolley or train or whatever it was, after it passed, I turned around and looked, and they were gone. And I had no idea where to go or what to do.
How
and
old were you?
5-ish.
Ooh, that's not good.
It was really not good, but I started crying, so one of the park people found me and said, okay, well, this apparently happens all the time, so come with me and we'll take you to the room. And so they took me to a place where apparently this is where they take lost kids, and they have a whole thing set up about it. They know how to handle it because they deal with it often enough that obviously they'd have to know how to handle it. So they take me there. Then my parents are frantically searching for me. They finally find a park employee as well. The park employee tells them where this room is located and apparently takes somebody there. So somebody comes and picks me up and then takes me back.
Wow.
That's
Segue.
okay. It was very efficient. I'll give them that.
Customer service. Now, the word magical. We talked about that. Magical.
Well, that's me digging on Disney because
Wait.
I had the experience of getting lost there, so I'm allowed to say that it's not magical.
Wait.
Okay.
Check this out. Check it. Disney will make sure, for the most part, that your child has a magical experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's their training. I'll
Right.
explain. If
Yeah.
your baby, while you're at Disney, drops one of their $12 ice cream cones,
Right.
and the park employee sees that, they're immediately getting another $12 ice cream cone.
And actually, I know that to be the case because it wasn't Disney, but it was a different park. I think it was SeaWorld.
Yeah.
Right? We went to see Shamu and all that, and I dropped like 3 or 4 ice cream cones before the guy said, "Hey, here, put it in a cup."
Yeah.
He's like, "Listen, I've just watched you drop 4 ice cream cones,
And I replaced each of them.
and I'm a kid, so of course I don't know any better. And he's like, I just replaced 4 ice cream cones for this kid. Hey, here's a cup. Eat
Put
it over
it
the
in a
cup.
cup.
And it dropped again. It dropped in the cup this time, and I had the whole thing because it was in the cup,
Yeah.
which is, that's what you got to do. But again, that's Florida in the middle of the summer and, Orlando, right?
Yeah,
So, like,
yeah,
of
yeah.
course they were melting. And I'm a kid, so of course I don't know enough to stop doing what I'm doing. My thought was, I just got to eat it faster.
Ice cream.
I just got to eat the thing faster, and then
Ice
it'll be
cream.
okay. Right. But he's like, put it in a cup. And I'm like, oh, that's a brilliant idea.
I love. Well, and that's something for customer service. I think one of the things you wanted to talk about had a little bit to do with customer service, I believe. Which one was
Man,
that?
I listen, I could talk about customer service all day long.
Jeez, we were talking about something had to do with it was comparison. It was
Comparative advantage
comparative-
over
Yeah, I was
relative
talking about
advantage?
that. Comparative versus relative. So segue. I do want to talk before we talk about that. I mean, maybe we might do that with another show. I want to talk about something that you've been alluding to in many of our shows, especially in our podcast, trending insurrection,
Right.
And then on the podcast, you can look some of those up, guys gals who are listening. You talked about the Supreme Court and their rulings
right.
are are tainted, or I use the word tainted. In
I would say
favor of
nuanced.
not nuanced at all. I've
Okay.
I'm not
So
there.
you're talking about the fact that, and I've mentioned this a couple times, that the Supreme Court has taken a very specific approach, that they do not want to be seen as hindering an officer from doing their job, right?
It's more than that.
They
It's more than that.
they basically have corrupted the Constitution by reading into it exceptions to the Bill of Rights that don't exist in the.
It's more than that. It's called everything you're saying.
Okay.
More.
Right.
It's more. Okay. I'll tell you how bad it is.
Uh-huh.
It's called qualified immunity.
Oh, right. Yeah, there is a bill right now in Congress that they're looking to get rid of that immunity.
Here's what this means.
Yeah.
That means that police officers can operate under qualified immunity. I began researching this, and this is because I'll tell you why. Because in the Floyd case, one of the excuses that his lawyer gave was, if the crowd thought that it was so bad, they could have intervened themselves.
Yeah, that's not really a thing that is supposed to be
Well, hold on a second.
acceptable
Hold on
for a
second.
crowd to do.
I'll tell you why. The reason that a citizen's arrest is so dangerous,
There were
is
3
because
other cops around who were
it-
going to back up that cop no matter what.
not even that. Even
Okay.
if it's outside of breaking into your own house, if there's a citizen into your property, if you try to make a citizen's arrest, you do not have qualified immunity.
Right?
So this is what qualified immunity means, and it's a terrible precedent done by the Supreme Court.
Okay.
What it means is that, let's say that if you do an act, 1, you have to know it's wrong, and 2, even if you think it might be wrong, has it been ever ruled on? Is it against a previous ruling by the Supreme Court?
Right.
So that's a catch-22. So in other words, 1, you have to prove the officer knew it was wrong, and 2, it has to be a previous something that was ruled upon by the very same court. Now, so that means that so many police officers over the years have gotten off because of qualified immunity.
Well, and
Not
not
only-
just police officers. There was actually a case not too long ago where there was a girl here in Florida who was strip searched by the school. They were searching for a Motrin, an over-the-counter drug. They were looking for Motrin, and they had been told by another student who was a discipline problem that she had this, and basically they strip searched her. And it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court actually ruled basically
qualified immunity.
that because they had never touched the subject before, that it was unclear if if the school didn't have that authority. And I'm like,
qualified immunity.
but that is the most insane argument
it's
that if we haven't talked about it, yeah, you might have that authority.
so
But
it's a catch-22. Exactly that. So that's
well, I mean, but the thing is that
There-
that argument defaults everything to permitted
Exactly.
until the Supreme Court says, yeah, that's a violation.
exactly. It's a catch-22. It's written in fact. You'll find out that if you study the historical
I think
cases,
it's actually catch-23, but go on.
Okay, if you check research the cases, you'll find that the Supreme Court is very quick to act when when the states do not give police officers qualified immunity, and very slow to act with abuses of qualified immunity. And so what they'll do, so basically, it seems to me that the Supreme Court is more than nuanced. That's more than a nuance.
Well-
that's literally permission to do bad stuff.
Okay, but there
And-
are then things that the Supreme Court has ruled on. The Supreme Court has ruled on plenty of things. And my point with saying that they're too nuanced is they will say, like, okay, like, for instance, traffic stops for drunk driving, right?
Yeah.
Technically, you're allowed to set up a roadblock looking for drunk drivers, but the drunk drivers don't actually have to talk to you. They don't have to, you don't have any reason to stop them. So it's just basically a traffic control situation, right? Like the same thing that you would expect at an accident or any other thing. Like, so they're using the power that they have to direct traffic, but they're trying to make stops. So what the Supreme Court has ruled is that you can basically set up these checkpoints, and that you can then execute them in the same way that you would execute any other traffic direction, right?
Yeah.
But if somebody, puts their information out the window and then rolls it up and with a note saying, "I don't want to talk to you," they should be allowed to proceed and move on. The officers don't understand that. They don't understand the nuance of this thing. They don't understand that they're not allowed to conduct traffic stops at a roadblock like this, so they just do. And then the Supreme Court doesn't really get involved in it because they've given kind of a nuanced structure of how things are supposed to be, and they don't really see any reason to take it back up.
They have, I see, but once again, I have to disagree with the word nuance. I have to say that they have given they have given consent through their through the qualified immunity
Well-
that you can basically do what you want.
No, but this is something they've definitely ruled is not legal, right? So in other words, they've given a ruling. They've said you can do this much and go no further, and then cops just say, we'll just do the whole thing. And they're definitely violating prior Supreme Court ruling. So even though it's not covered under qualified immunity, nobody ever gets taken to task for it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do understand
Okay.
that. Yeah, but see, I don't call that nuanced. I say that what
Well, what I'm saying is that the ruling itself is nuanced, but the police officers are violating the nuance.
No, I get that part. I don't
Okay.
think that. I think that, and I'm trying to figure out Supreme Court. They'll have to answer this themselves.
Oh, they're never going to bother.
Why would you create laws that protect that specifically protect
You mean why would they create laws as a court?
as a court that would specifically place the citizens that you were supposed to serve at a disadvantage to those who are there paying to serve them? I don't get the taint here. How does that work? How do you sleep at night knowing that you're basically for lack of word screwing or throwing under the bus all your American citizens? I mean, I don't.
I imagine pretty well.
I don't get how you can make those type of laws and then face people in the morning. And
Well, you see, they don't really face people. The Supreme Court is too removed from the people that whose rights they are violating through their various rulings to care. They're too far removed. And the thing is, I think this is, this is really actually a very important thing. The idea of removing sovereign or qualified immunity. The idea of removing the qualified immunity and saying, like, you don't have the ability to violate the Constitution in ways that we haven't ruled on yet. I mean, that is just, it's criminal, the way that they've done that.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, so let's go to Buffalo. Talk
Okay.
about Buffalo. I don't know if you guys have seen the video. Watch the video. Police officers.
Oh, I
push-
think everybody's seen it by this point. It was out last week, and everybody's seen it at this point. The president has tweeted on it.
Okay, now
Go ahead.
Okay, so everybody's seen it. I don't know if you've seen it. If you've seen it, you haven't seen it yet. If you're in a cave someplace or just busy, check it out. It's clear that police officers are those guys are pretty callous. Now, 4 guys were suspended without pay, right? And here's where it gets interesting. 57 officers have left the
He resigned from the special response team.
Exactly. Thank you for helping with that.
No
Words
problem.
were stuck in my mind. So okay, and they resigned because
They resigned because the union declined to assist. Apparently, this is what I'm hearing.
yeah, I told you.
Exactly. I heard it from you, Lou.
Yeah, from me.
So you say that they resigned because the union declined to assist them in their legal
I
defense.
said the union, but whatever they have, they said that they were scared because the guy had to get his own legal representation. The guys had to get their own legal representation, and they said, if I'm on parade detail or direct response, and I'm volunteering for this, and you're not going to protect me when something goes wrong, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not doing that. You couldn't force me to do it.
Right.
And you know what? Quite frankly, I agree with them. Listen, because I believe that even if you're wrong, you should have strong defense while you're at work.
Everyone deserves a right to a solid defense.
Yeah, and I think that if just because they did
I agree.
something
I
wrong,
thought you were going to come out in the other direction on this one because I thought we were going to disagree.
No. I mean, no, because I don't think that just because you're wrong, even the guys who shot Floyd, who didn't shoot, who kneeled on the police officer who kneeled on his neck. The police union is supposed to come out and help that guy to the extent that they possibly can. I believe that's their job. That's the part of our legal system.
And that specifically goes to the agreements of the union, right? So usually that's the way the union operates.
Even if they're wrong.
There are occasions where if you do a certain thing or it's egregious enough that it may violate a certain rule within the union, and then maybe they'd say they're not required to provide your legal defense at that point. But I don't know of any internal rule. So you see, the thing is, normally I would say you're right. And the question I have is there an internal rule that they violated that would have put that in the realm of a thing that the union would say, no, we're not gonna help you with that. Like, for instance, if a police officer rapes a child or something like that, like, you wouldn't expect, and I'm sorry for pulling up such an egregious example, but you wouldn't expect, you would say, okay, the union doesn't have to cover them in that case. Like, it's clearly wrong. And if, especially like if they admitted to it or they were caught in the act by like 5 other officers who witnessed it, and then
It's on
like,
YouTube.
okay, now
Yeah.
the union is like, hey, we got 5 of your fellow officers saying that you did that. We're not helping you out. And there is a certain thing about like that particular crime that like cops and criminals and everybody just like commonly
Hates.
hates it, right? So like, fine, like there's certain egregious crimes and there's certain circumstances where maybe you could say that, but I don't think they're there, right? Like, I mean, as terrible as I thought that was, and it's on video, so maybe that's part of the thing, right? Like, if you're caught on video abusing a citizen or cracking somebody, literally, if you're caught on a video cracking skulls, maybe that's a thing.
But even then, I still think that your brothers and sisters need to provide you with the best defense possible because you're going to need it.
Because
everybody
because they're brothers and sisters. I think it's because it's a union and there's a literal written agreement to be part of the union.
Well, I mean,
It's a benefit the union provides. You pay them dues. They then provide
Yeah,
you with
yeah.
legal support when you need it. So that's part of the union's service that you actually are paying for. It's more of a service agreement than
than
you
a
know,
moral
code.
agreement.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. I think that that's wrong, and I think people love to get in the bandwagon of. I was talking with one of my. I was talking with one of my.
Yeah, the
parents.
bandwagon of cracking skulls on video. You shouldn't be doing that.
I was talking with one of my family members, and he was talking about the lawyer who supported who said for the Floyd guy. He said,
Right.
you know, I talked about it before, that the bystanders should have interrupted if they thought it was so bad. And I said, Dad, listen.
They attempted to. I mean, they actually they said, "Hey, you know, get off his neck."
Yeah, and he said that it was real stupid for him to say that. And I said, Dad, not necessarily. I said, what he's trying to do is he's trying to do anything he can to if you had given me that case, and I would take the case if I were a defense lawyer, because it's a great challenge, even as a black person, because my concern, because if you can get him off, you have won. You'll be one of the most famous defense
If you
lawyers.
can get him off,
You'll
you will be one of the most infamous defense lawyers because you will have just triggered the next round of riots and protests.
But you will be a god among
and
your,
there will be more
you will
riots
be a
than protests the next time around.
You will be
I
a
mean,
god
I might go out
among-
there and riot with him if the guy gets off.
You would be a god.
Okay, there was a
among
moment.
defense lawyers.
There was actually a moment where I thought maybe there was a solid defense case. Maybe maybe there would be something that they could do when they pointed out that I believe Floyd was on fentanyl and another drug.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. The being on the drug itself doesn't justify murdering somebody. However, they were trying to say that the coroner thought that he didn't strangulate. And okay, so he didn't strangulate. Well, how did he actually die, right? It was the coroner was saying that he thought it might have been a heart attack instead of something due specifically to the treatment. But then they had another coroner come in and do an additional investigation.
Wait, hold on a second. The family found out that the police officers were there during the first coroner's report. In the room.
In the room?
Yes. I think so. I might be wrong. I heard from. I haven't read the reports, but I think that they actually said that the police officers were there during the first coroner's report.
Hey, coroner, you're gonna find good things for us, right?
Hook us up, man. Hook us up. We need help on this one.
So I think that there was a second coroner's report, and I've heard this. I don't know necessarily how accurate.
Yeah,
it is.
I don't know how true what
but
I'm saying is.
I heard that the second coroner came in and found that it was actually a restriction of blood flow that caused him to die, and that was due to the knee on the neck. So basically, that was the thing. That's when it became second-degree murder.
Yeah.
And I think that there is a real good case to be made for first-degree murder here.
No.
No, there is, because there's something called the felony murder rule. And this is something like they would apply to you and me in a heartbeat.
Not with qualified immunity. So you got to go for second because they
Well,
still have qualified immunity.
It does not matter. So in other words, I don't think there's no way the Supreme Court is going to override. I mean, what's he going to say? He had qualified immunity to put a knee on the guy's neck because he didn't know it was bad. The Supreme Court has never ruled whether or not you can actually put a knee into somebody's neck until they die. That's just not. It's not reasonable. The Supreme Court has made plenty of rulings about what force you can and can't use. Yeah, so this is definitely excessive force. So here's the question, right? Now, okay, so the felony murder rule would be like this. If you were robbing a bank and a cop comes in and shoots your hostage,
Bang, bang, bang.
you are now guilty of first-degree murder because you were committing a felony, and as a result of that felony, even though it was some cop who did it, somebody died.
That's real wrong.
But that's the felony murder rule, and
that's
I
so
actually don't disagree with it.
I
In
agree.
general,
that's wrong.
If you were the one that created a dangerous situation and somebody dies, then as a result of a felony, right? Not just some accident or some careless action or something like that. There are different laws for those, but if you're actually engaged in the commission of a serious crime, and because you're engaged in a serious crime,
that's
somebody
wrong.
dies.
That's qualified immunity again. I disagree with that.
No, that's not qualified immunity.
Yes, it is.
That is an that is an old standing that predates the United States.
I understand that, but I think it's wrong. I'll tell you
The
why.
felony murder rule predates the,
I'll
Constitution and
tell
the
you
Supreme
why
Court.
I think it's wrong.
That's common law.
I'll tell you why I think it's wrong.
Well,
Because now
it
police
comes from
officers-
Britain,
it doesn't-
so I mean it's common law. We get it from you guys.
Excuse me. When you say Britain, you need to drink some tea. God save the Queen. Please forgive us. Look, this is why I think that can be wrong.
Okay, it can be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it
that's
can be
wrong.
applied incorrectly.
Yeah, I applied incorrectly. I'll tell you why. Because let's say I'm in a car chase,
Okay.
right? Let's say the OJ car
Well,
chase.
and here's a
the
great
the OJ car chase.
yeah. Here's a great caveat to that. Different states have different felonies.
I got that. But
So,
let's say you're
okay.
in a car chase.
All right.
The OJ car chase.
Right.
And during the car chase, it was only at 35 miles an hour. It was really slow. He wasn't speeding. Police officers decide, we got to stop this guy. So they ram into his car. Because they're going to stop him because really he is disobeying. You know, they're
Trying to
cha-
pit maneuver. Gotcha.
Yeah. And in the process of doing that, they injure civilians or kill a civilian.
Here's the problem. That is usually not a felony. Attempting to escape or resisting arrest is usually just a misdemeanor. So if he's fleeing, and in fact, did they try to end the O.J. Simpson thing by stopping him? I thought they just let him go until he stopped.
Yeah, I mean, but my point is that, but if you
Right.
do that,
But the thing is, he wasn't speeding. He wasn't endangering the community. He actually did not give them a reason to use force to try to stop the vehicle, which is something that a lot of people make the mistake. They think if you drive faster, the cops will, you can lose the cops or whatever.
Yeah,
But
you
actually,
can't.
if you go slow, you're taking away their reason to use certain
tactics to stop
tools
you.
and tactics. Yeah. So anyway, but
But you get the idea. I mean, if let's say in the situation where I'm holding up a bank, not me personally, but someone like me,
right.
So holding up a bank,
Right, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
you know, what I mean?
somebody
holding-
like you, I
someone like me,
understand. I'm
holding up a bank,
picturing
basically a person holding up
somebody
a bank
with your hair from 2
with my
months
hair
ago.
from here 2 months ago.
Okay.
Holding up a bank.
I just
the
got to
po-
make fun of you for
and
that
the
hair.
police. Yeah, listen, it's great here. And the police shoot in the bank,
Uh-huh.
and they kill somebody,
Right?
or they use tear gas, and somebody has COPD, and one of my hostages die on me.
Right? Or your
Yeah, or
even your co-conspirator.
or my co-conspirator dies on me. Now I get the murder charge for that. For the police,
Uh-huh.
or a police dog comes in. They say,
Right.
release the hounds. A police
Well,
dog
if a police
comes
dog comes in and you're armed, I mean, you're probably going to take that police dog out.
in. No,
That's
no.
just-
And the police dog bites someone and kills them because they think it's me.
Well, you see, the thing is, they
And-
wouldn't. I don't think
Not that
it
they-
would
I'm-
not be advisable to send a police dog
I'm just
into
giving
a
you-
populated room.
I'm just giving an example of
Yeah, but your example's got to be kind of accurate.
No,
they're going to
they don't have to
shoot.
be accurate.
They're going to
I'm-
shoot, and they're going to hit a hostage instead of you. That's the number one.
Yeah, but my point is that and let's say but I'm saying if whoever shoots the gun is responsible for what comes out of it. I don't think that because of that police can be reckless in how they enforce in their rules of engagement because it's a shootout, he's going to get in trouble anyway, so I don't have to worry about what I do. I mean, I don't think it's wrong. Like, for instance, give you a prime example. The police officers
Prime example.
Prime example. The police officers were chasing someone in a yard
Uh-huh.
and killed a 10-year-old girl.
How did they kill the 10-year-old girl?
Bullets. They were shooting. It was a shootout in his person's yard. Killed a 10-year-old girl.
Right.
On the swing. I don't think that the person who they were chasing.
What had the person they were chasing done?
I'm not sure. I think he might have shot back or shot at them. There might have been a shootout or something like that. But my point is that I don't believe
okay,
that.
but shooting back isn't necessarily going to justify the shooting, right? Because the cops are shooting before you shoot back. So the question is, what did he do?
Yeah.
What was the original felony that he
I do
committed
not know.
that justified lethal force?
Either way, it's lethal force. But the fact that you shoot a kid.
Listen,
You get in trouble for that.
I totally
not
get
the
that.
not
But
the
here's the
criminal.
thing: like if the criminal shoots first, then what are the cops going to do? Not shoot back?
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm not saying that.
Okay,
but you're responsible when you go into somebody's
Right.
yard
Well,
and a child is playing.
this is
That's what I'm saying.
a standard safety rule, to understand where you're pointing your weapon and never point a weapon at anything that you don't want to shoot. So
That's what I'm saying. As a police officer, you can't blame the criminal for that. That's what I'm saying. I mean, that's what that law implies, and I think it's wrong.
okay, but here's the thing, right? Who created the dangerous situation? Because if the cops are not shooting
felon
yet, right? If the felon creates the dangerous situation, then he's responsible for the outcome of the dangerous situation.
I
Now,
disagree with that.
you can't know all of the outcomes of a dangerous situation. So you don't create a dangerous situation when there's a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old girl swinging on a swing set. And you just cannot know all of that stuff. Like,
So
I
the
would
police
say
officers have no responsibility for their firearm, and I think that's wrong.
they do, but at the same time, well, okay, now that's an interesting argument.
So you can just shoot willy nilly as
But not-
as long as he shoots first.
Well, if
get
somebody
the cannons out.
if
He
somebody's
shot
shooting,
first.
but you don't know because, like, okay, so he's shooting this way. Maybe there's two 12-year-olds over here that are in danger of being shot, and maybe the police are saying, well, listen, he's shooting in this direction already. This is a neighborhood. He could easily shoot somebody and put somebody down. Our best chance is to take him out. Our best chance is to stop this criminal. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not hoping for police to
Not-
do
listen,
something like that, but it is at least a long-standing
Okay.
rule. I think we're off topic because we wanted to talk about how first-degree murder was an acceptable charge for the officer here in this case.
Okay, let's okay, this is another show. Definitely another show.
Okay.
Let's circle
So
back to that.
circle back to that, right? So we've talked about if you're creating a dangerous situation, and then, but it specifically has to be a felony, and if somebody dies because of a felony you've committed, or as a result of the situation created because you're committing a felony, then you are responsible for the death, and it becomes first-degree murder.
Yeah.
Now, here's the question. Is he violating the person's civil rights in a way that is a felony, right? If you are recklessly endangering someone, if the reckless endangerment occurs, then that's a felony, and then the person dies, well, that makes it a first-degree murder, right? Not just reckless murder or something like that, but if you have engaged in a felony, if what he did was bad enough before the murder to be a felony, and then the person dies from it, it is first-degree murder by the felony murder rule. And so a lot of people have been talking about how they don't see a conviction could come from this. But I think that that definitely a conviction could come from this. Now, what you have to watch out for, here's the flip side of that. Maybe the prosecutor isn't thinking this at all. Maybe there's no initial felony. They just put first-degree murder on this. And they're thinking that they put first-degree murder on it in order to placate the people.
And he'll get off.
But, yeah, and he'll get off. And that's a real threat, right? Because if somebody
Yeah.
is actually...
You can't prove first degree. I can argue
Well,
first degree on that case easily.
But if they went through the path I'm talking about, then it's a pretty easy first-degree argument. But if they say, okay, we're not going to prosecute it like that, then basically it's... you have a problem, right? Because he'll be exonerated. And if they're going for an exoneration, then the backup plan has to be
Second degree.
federal prosecution. No. Like, in other words, at the state level, a lot of times they will try to get somebody completely off. And they will charge him with crimes, and you can't be charged again. Like, once you go through the process and you're charged with a crime for a particular action, they can't come back and say, oh, you know what, we charged incorrectly. We're going to go ahead and put second degree on it. We're going to put third degree on it. We're going to put reckless endangerment on it. We're going to put all this stuff. Now, it's like, no, you went through a trial. You put these charges in. They were accepted by the court, and that's it. That's what you get to do. So, but there is a catch, let's say 24, where if you are tried at the state level, even if you're exonerated, you can still be tried at the federal level because the federal crime is different. The federal statute is different. You have not been tried under the federal statute just because you've been tried under the state statute.
Well, first degree murder is a bad. They're going for second degree. They can prove second degree easily. That's a slam dunk.
Well,
And I don't think that I think looking at the video, if they allow the video, now if in court the judge tosses out the video because it might prejudice the jury.
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
like they've done before. Well, then
If you're a police officer and there's a video of you committing a crime, that's prejudicial, right? Because that would prejudice the jury to believe that you committed a crime.
that's awesome.
Like, it's just,
That's awesome.
it's not considered evidence. Like, if you or I or anyone else committed a crime, the video of the commission of that crime would just be evidence. But if you're a police officer, it's prejudicial.
Yeah. So if the judge strikes that video out, then there will definitely be problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, because now you have eyewitness reports versus the police. Well,
you see, but the thing is, I think at this point, everyone in the United States has basically seen this video. They're going to ask for a change of venue, right? Because they're obviously not going to want to try in this particular venue. And that was what they've done this in several of the major cases where police officers have committed crimes. They've asked for a change of venue so they could go somewhere else where people weren't as upset about it. The thing is, even if you're not one of the people who is directly upset about it, you're probably going to be auxiliary upset about it because you've had to put up with the mobs and the crowds in the street protesting and all that other nonsense, and you're not going to be happy about that.
Well, I'd love to do a show just about to discuss
Happens every week.
How to protest properly. There's ways to protest. I love the protests, but I've found that protesting does not do as much as making sure people don't get elected again.
Well, I'll tell you what. The one thing that you don't want to do if you're protesting is block traffic, because that just pisses off everybody.
Traffic, yeah.
Listen, if you block traffic, there is a special place in the afterlife reserved for people who block traffic.
Yeah, and your protests have to make sense. Because that's why the civil rights movement did such a great job, because their protests made sense,
right?
And it was
nonviolent.
And it was nonviolent.
This is actually one of the things that they've studied. We talked about this, I think, last week as well, because this is a topic that keeps coming up. The best thing for the advancement of civil rights is when the protest is nonviolent and the reaction happens to be violent. So when you are not doing anything violent, and this is one of the things where I think there's been a slight miscalculation on the protesters' part, and not necessarily on the protesters' part, but the fact that there have been riots along with it have made it possible for police to be brutal back and not suffer as much of a degradation of their popularity as if they had been completely nonviolent protests.
Exactly, and I think that's the issue. The issue is nonviolent protest and voting and being a part of the political process are the keys, especially on the local level.
I mean, people say voting, but
on the local level, your vote means a lot.
Does it really?
Oh, on the local level, definitely.
Does it really? Because the thing is,
on the local level,
a lot of these places where this is happening, these are Democrat-controlled cities. These are like D+13 to D+30 cities where there's so many Democrats that unless you're voting in the primary, you don't really have a choice.
Well, I mean, you can pick, even if it's a Democrat. The fact is that there is elitism and within every form of governance, so to speak. And so even though it's a Democrat run, there's still elitists there. There's still favoritism there. There's still, so I don't think it really matters. I think the fact is your vote does mean something, especially on the small.
I think you really have to find somebody, and I hate to say this, like Trump. If you're in one of these places, what you need is your own Trump. And Trump was basically, let me explain this, right? If you're wondering why people wanted Trump, then yeah, okay, I get it. But Trump, we saw, at least the Republican side, And again, I say I'm not a Republican, but I definitely know which team I'm rooting for when I watch the Transformers movies. But people that voted for Trump, and also I was not for Trump when he first came out, right? Like I definitely did not see Trump. I didn't think he was going to win. I didn't see him as the front runner. In fact, the only reason I think he won is because there was such a split in the Republican side. Like all of the conservative, there was like 26 candidates, 22 of them were hardcore conservative, and then 3 of them were not exciting, and then all of a sudden there was Trump. Trump was the most exciting candidate who wasn't a conservative. And so the conservative part of the movement, or the party, is much larger than the Trump part of the party, right? Trump was still only getting like 39 to 42% of the vote, even as he was winning. But he was winning all these states because, Rubio and Cruz were fighting with each other over who was going to be the conservative candidate in that primary. Well, the fact that they both stayed in all the way till Florida made it so that Trump was the front runner coming out of Florida. Now, at that point, there's just almost no chance that you're going to come back. I mean, you'd have to win so much, and Trump was already basically steamrolling.
Yep.
He was almost there. There was nothing they could do. By the time they finally got out, it was too late because Trump had already won. So
and then Hillary totally kiboshed her own campaign. I have never seen such a poorly run campaign
I
in
ended
my
up
life.
I ended up voting for Trump in the general election, and here's the reason why. And this is the argument that resonated with me. He said that we're not getting what we want from government. The best thing we can do is take a wrench and throw it into the gears. And I said, okay, fine. I'd rather do that than have Hillary. I mean, Hillary definitely would be bad gear movement as far as I was concerned. Like, she was going to keep the gears running, and I wasn't happy with the way the gears were running. And so we're going to take a wrench and throw it in the gears. Now, if you get a candidate like that who says, you know what, I want to do this, that, and the other, I'm going to just be a wrench and you can throw me into the gears, then by all means, vote for that guy. Because you need that more than you need anything else. You need someone who's going to shake things up. Now, I don't know if he's going to shake things up the right way.
Super Tweet.
Like, I don't know if
His nickname is Super Tweet.
Well, I mean, I don't know that that's a terrible nickname. Like, yeah. Super Tweet is... Look, if you're going to give your opponent a nickname, it needs to be devastating. It needs to be...
I didn't say it was opponent. I'm just saying he's Super
Okay,
Tweet.
well, I mean, but these are... he gives everybody nicknames, like Low Energy Jeb and stuff like that.
Jeb is soft.
His nicknames...
He's tired.
His nicknames, like, knock people out,
He's
right?
brilliant.
He's great with the nicknames, and everybody else is trying to give him a nickname. And I'm like, Super Tweet. That's like a freaking, like, I'd wear a cape and do a picture and put Super Tweet across the front of it.
I'm not trying to be derogatory. I'm just simply saying
right.
he tweets a lot. He's Super
okay,
Tweet.
well, he does tweet a lot,
He's
but
Super Tweet. That's his name.
I don't know that means anything to me other than he tweets a lot. And
yeah, it's Super Tweet.
Okay, well, it seems, I don't know. Hey, if you're gonna come up with a nickname for me, come up with something that is gonna enhance my image.
Yeah.
Mountain Man or
yeah.
the gun guy. Like, I mean, those are the kind of. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be a bad name. He's just Super Tweet. That's his thing.
Okay.
He loves to tweet a lot.
Well, I've heard other people call him things like that, and they think they're deriding him. They think they've knocked him down a peg.
I'm not necessarily deriding him. You can't.
Okay.
Listen. I'm gonna share this with America. America, there is nothing you can say to a man worth over $2 billion that's going to affect him.
That's not entirely true.
That's not. Yes, it is.
Because if
you need to understand, there is nothing you can say to a man worth over $1 billion or $2 billion.
Actually, I think he's hanging around $1 billion, and occasionally, you know what? You know what you can say to him, because I know this gets under his skin. He gets upset when people say he dropped below $1 billion.
Yeah.
When people say,
that's the only thing.
"Oh, he's not a billionaire. He's dropping below $1 billion," he doesn't like that at all.
That's the only thing he cares about. All right. So I'll share this with you. So all these comments about Trump, he didn't care about you. You have nothing. He didn't care. He's rich enough to be insulated from. Listen, he'd say things like this. From the smell of you, I'd say it was the poor talking. He's that rich. He doesn't care about what you think about him. You're not going to affect his money. In fact, if you impeached him right now, he would go home and fly home on his jet and go back to business as usual. Even if you got rid of him today, you would not diminish his life in any way, shape, or form. So that's why I say to all the people who are supporting Trump, he didn't care about you. He is so removed from the regular person that he doesn't care. That's why he can say what he says. He is so rich, he's conceited. I'm the best at the military. I've done more for black people than any other president. I've done more for and he'll say that, and when you disagree with him, what's he going to say? I don't care. Donald Trump is the best at so-and-so.
Well,
so he didn't care about your opinion, and you're not going to hurt him.
right. I think you're right about that. Like, it's going to be very difficult to do much about Trump and
I'm
what he
rich.
believes.
I'm rich. I mean, come on. Who cares about what you say? I'm rich.
Yeah, but the thing is, okay, but this is what I'm saying. Like, he does actually, he responds to what people say about him on the news channels, and so it is clear that gets under his skin, and he fires back with devastating things. Like, there's recently, what was it? He would get upset at all the people saying that he was lying about taking chloroquine. And so he fired back at Joe Scarborough and brought up like a 20-year-old allegation about something that he did with maybe an intern or something like that. And so he definitely, it got under his skin. It does. So I think he's got somewhat thin skin for president of the United States. Now, don't get me wrong. It is, and I say thin skin, what I mean is that
he's petty, but he doesn't care.
He is, no, he does care. And it is something called neuroticism, right? Which is one of the big 5 personality traits. The idea of neuroticism is how susceptible you are to negative emotions. And usually that matters to people because if somebody around you doesn't like you, you want to pick up on that. You want to notice it. If your wife hates your guts, you want to be aware of this because you might want to do something about it. You might want to fix that situation.
Go on.
If your brother, sister, or close friend, neighbor doesn't like you, then you'd want to be able to pick up on that and be aware of that before, somebody went hog wild on you with the bat. Anyway, you want to be aware of those things before somebody tries to hurt you. So, but if you're the president of the United States, and this guy is not your neighbor, and he's nobody that really matters. You're still going to feel the same negative emotions when that person says bad things about you. So that's neuroticism, and it's not necessarily well adapted to kind of a world where anybody can attack the president of the United States, because then the president of the United States might feel upset about that. And what are you going to do? Like, not watch the news, not be informed, not be part of the national conversation? No, it's just that some idiot is going to say some bad things. And here's the thing. Neil Cavuto said it. Morning Joe said it. Like, there were a whole slew of people who just straight up accused the president of lying when I'm pretty sure he was telling the truth. And that is...
How can you be pretty sure?
Well, he said that his doctor prescribed him a medicine and that he was taking it. Now, those people said, no, that's not true. He can't be taking it because that medication kills you, which is stupid because that medication has been used for 50 years and it doesn't kill people. So I'm pretty sure they were just wrong and that he was not lying about that. What do you think?
I have no idea on this one.
Well,
This one.
Do you think that chloroquine kills people?
Once again, I have no idea. I have not read the side effects online.
I'm sure one of the side effects is death. I mean, I'm
I
sure
have-
that it can
I
kill
ha-
you.
I have not read the side effects online, so
But
I can't weigh on this one.
If
This one I'm out.
if the side effects, even if the side effects include death, if you take enough, I mean, it is technically a poison, and if you take enough of it, it will kill you.
Yeah.
But if you're taking the appropriate dosage under a doctor's or a physician's supervision, then you're probably not going to die. Plus, if you do have a complication, the physician's going to know what you're on and he'll be able to handle it.
Okay,
I mean,
wait,
this
wait.
is the president's personal physician we're talking about.
Give me the situation. What was the big deal with what he was taking anyway?
So chloroquine is he was taking it as a preventative measure
Yeah, go on.
for COVID-19.
That makes sense now. And then
So-
and they were saying that he wasn't taking it.
They said he lied about taking it. Yeah, they said they straight up said he was lying because it definitely kills you. There is 100% chance that if you're taking chloroquine, it'll kill you. And it was ridiculous how far they went. And yet,
who cares?
well, that's a good question. Who does care? But Neil Cavuto cared. Morning Joe cared. A lot of people in media cared. There were
I
these.
just heard that, and I thought, well, I don't care what he takes. I mean,
Exactly.
I don't care what
It
the guy
is.
takes.
It
He
is
take
not
what he wants.
important
Who cares?
unless you have already invested a lot in saying that chloroquine is not a good idea to take. So there were studies. Okay, so there was a study originally that came out and said that it might be promising in the treatment of COVID-19. That it was one of the things that the doctors in China had started using to great effect.
Got it.
Okay, then it comes to the United States, and people start saying things like, oh, no, that's not approved for the use for treating COVID-19, which is like ridiculous because it's a brand new disease. Of course, there's no approved treatment. But then there's off-label use that you can entertain for certain drugs, right?
Wait. So why was he telling people what he takes? When did that come up?
Okay, so this came up 3 weeks ago or so. But here's the thing: like he originally, when this disease was coming out, he said that there's a promising study and this is a good
Okay.
thing. And everybody's like, no, Trump's bad. We have to disagree with Trump. So that can't be a good thing. So Trump has to be lying about this. And then,
Okay, that makes
and
sense.
then
Okay, I
some
got it.
studies,
I got it.
like 2 studies came out that said maybe it wasn't such a great thing, right? And those studies have actually just recently been debunked and gone away. So then it still was available for off-label use because it is approved by the FDA
Yeah.
for malaria and
You told me about that a couple of weeks ago.
yeah, it's a
Yeah, you
malaria drug.
mentioned that, yeah.
It's approved for malaria and also arthritis, and it is also approved for off-label use. So then the president says, "Oh, this could be a good thing." Now there was actually,
Okay, that makes sense.
there's a lot of stuff going on about this, but this has become one of the fights. Like people are fighting over this drug, and I'm like, why are you fighting over a drug? It doesn't make any sense. Either it's gonna work or it's not. But it's not going to kill people. It's been around for 50 years. We know what it does already.
Wait,
It's not a new thing.
Well, my issue is
Yeah.
my issue is COVID-19. What's the death rate right now?
It's very low. And it's much lower than we thought.
How many?
And here's beautiful. This is a beautiful thing, right? So the actual mortality rate is now like 0.01% or 0.1% or something like that. Very, very low. And they're finding it goes lower. The more people get it, the lower the death rate goes because the people who are dying from it were somehow susceptible to it, right?
Wait, listen to me, David.
But here's the best thing. It has gotten so low that doctors have recently come out and said, we weren't wrong. The virus has changed. It's different now than it was before because it's actually gone so low, they're embarrassed. They were predicting 3 million deaths, and now they've got like
200,000?
no 100,000, but
Does
they're
it-
not
what-
even. Yeah, it's not even that. Like in other words, that's an inflated statistic. But even now, so we had maybe 100,000 deaths, right? Probably more like 70,000, right? But now the actual cases that are coming in are milder, and almost no one's dying anymore. So it's actually gotten to the point where it seems like they've
Well,
all of the
are you
week.
sure your numbers are correct?
Well, okay, but here's the thing. My numbers, there are no correct numbers. So throw correct numbers out the window.
I know
Here's
we-
what I'm talking
we've
about. The
definitely had over-
doctors, what's that?
Okay, wait, hold on. I agree. By the way, everything you're saying, I agree with
Okay.
you. Just on the numbers. My only thing, I agree that we overreacted. I agree that
Right.
that the number that
Well,
the death rate
100,000 is like a
low.
week old number.
Yeah.
But that's the official number, but that's not an accurate number.
Yeah.
Right? So like it's going to be less than 100,000. So here's my point. The doctors who are looking at the daily statistics
Yeah.
and are up to date on everything, they're actually now, this is consciousness of guilt. Okay, they are coming out and saying, we weren't wrong. We weren't wrong about the virus. It really was this terrible. The virus has changed. It is no longer this terrible. We don't know why. We don't know why it changed. We don't know how it changed. It changed. And it's no longer doing what it did. And we don't know why. And that to me, I think it's ridiculous.
Which doctors are saying that? I haven't heard that yet.
That's a good question. I was looking at a couple of different things. You're asking for details that I have forgotten. Sorry.
Not that it's important.
No. I mean, I understand.
but
It is kind of
but
important.
everyone is saying that. But that's, when I'm
Like two specific doctors were saying
my
that.
complaints
Yeah.
to everyone that I've talked to, who argued with me when I said gloom and doom. I said you are spreading gloom and doom, and
Right.
it's dangerous for America. When I said that to them, so now that we've had 200,000 deaths, and my mother unfortunately died from COVID 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Legitimately.
Legitimately died from COVID 2 weeks ago. Now that we've had, and I say it's not that, and you say it's still not that high, and now that we have Great Depression-like jobless rates,
Yes.
and I'm now telling people,
And the doctors are coming out in favor of the protests. They're saying, "Oh yeah, racism is worse than COVID-19, so definitely go out and protest."
yeah. So now, now you have all of that. You put that all together,
Right?
and you have what I call a stupid sandwich because you should have never. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
you don't-
That is absolutely right. We should never have closed down
America.
the economy
In fact,
for this.
In fact, I believe. Now I'm going to put on my stupid conspiracy hat.
Well, let's not go with the conspiracy because the
I'm
thing
going to be
is,
stupid. I'm going to let me
I
be stupid
think
for a
you
minute.
shouldn't. Well, okay, but I don't think you should chalk up to conspiracy whatever you can ascribe correctly and accurately to incompetence or ignorance. And I gotta tell you, I know for a fact
Yeah.
that our experts are ignorant of the math of this particular thing.
Okay, wait. Okay,
They're
I got
ignorant
that,
on the math.
Okay, but hear me out.
Okay.
Hear me out. Hear me out.
I'll hear you out.
Hear me out. Hear me out.
Uh-huh.
When I say conspiracy,
Right?
I believe that the deaths and the gloom and doom news reporting
Uh-huh.
was what has been. Let's put it this way. I'll be stupid for a second. Just bear with me, guys, and I don't believe it per se, but it's kind of fun. If I were an enemy of America and I wanted America to overreact so that their economy would be shot, COVID-19 has been the perfect weapon. Even though my people died, I would make sure that I showed the worst possible deaths of my people and then say, it's in America now. You guys need to shut down too, because check it out. Sweden never shut down.
Right?
Check out the Sweden numbers.
They're super low.
All you detractors saying that, oh, no. Oh, you're wrong. It's because we shut down why there were not so many deaths. No,
Right.
this is like the common cold.
They've come out and said that it seems like no matter what the reaction was, the trajectory of the virus did not change.
Exactly.
No action seems to have affected the way that COVID-19 spread and the way that it dealt with things.
Because it's like the common cold. You're going to catch
Exactly.
it. You're
You are-
going to get it no matter what.
Now, I will say this. I actually did say that before this thing happened, and I said it to Scott Adams. Scott Adams says, was freaking out before anybody else was freaking out. He was on the leading edge of freak out, and I tried to tell him, if the R naught of this virus is as high as they say it is, then there is no action that we can take that will prevent it from coming to the United States.
Exactly.
It will get here. The question, and in fact, I said, I'll bet it's already here. And you know what? It was.
And I said, I said that we need as many people to catch it as possible so that herd immunity can take place. And when I said that to people, they were so angry. We're not going to be guinea pigs. You're talking about. I said, no, it's just common sense. Once everybody gets it,
right,
you develop antibodies for the thing.
Yes,
and
you're right.
It's the most sensible thing. And this has happened since there have been.
Oh, this this is a respiratory virus, right? It is not. This isn't HIV. This isn't the plague. It isn't. This is a respiratory virus. It's like a rhinovirus or a coronavirus. These are all very common things, and it is just another strain of the same thing. Our bodies are able to handle it. If there had been a significantly higher death rate in China, then maybe we would have had something to worry about. But, I mean, even as China was dealing with it, they were overreacting. They were, and you can't spell overreact without ovary, but they were like, they were overreacting.
Really?
I know, right?
Really?
That's just a bad joke I threw in there for
Really?
no reason at all.
Really?
For no reason at all. Anyway, but they were overreacting, and they were like, okay, here's the thing, right? People I knew and people who were online, like Tim Pool, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm about to say this, but I really respect Tim. But he was pointing to the fact that they were welding people inside of their homes. They were welding doors shut on apartment buildings as a sign of how dangerous this thing was. And I said, no. You're misreading that sign. That's a sign of how dangerous communist governments are. Communist governments can weld your door shut if you're sick. I mean, that's crazy. That is the number one best argument I've ever heard against communism. And I've heard a lot of arguments against communism. But that didn't mean that, to me, I read that, and I think correctly, as communism is a terrible form of government.
It sucks.
And you don't want that. And not, though, that this disease was that bad, right? I think they just overreacted to it. What would you say?
Yeah, I think that and I think I think the reason that they showed what they showed was because because people are so selfishly scared of losing what they have that it forced America into what I call a selfish landslide of emotion. I'm not gonna die. You're not gonna kill me. You're a killer. Because we're so scared of bad things happening to us that we would rather cause our economy to crumble than me catch a flu. And that's basically what it comes down to.
And
you would rather
not everybody, but the rich people who really control the country, yes.
We would. No, I can't. No, because everybody agreed with them.
Well,
everybody said, "Yeah, come on." In fact, when Trump said,
okay, but here's the thing: it was the media scaring the crap out of people, right? It was the media. They still are. Like, there are still people who are scared of this thing, and it's all media based. The media has been hyping this up. It is a terrible thing. Now, the funny thing is, they've kind of backed off on that hype now because of the protests, right? So they're saying, "Oh no, people need to go out and protest," it's not going to spread the disease.
They've backed off on the hype because we have great depression, like loss of jobs.
Well, and there's that's true, and I think that's feeding into the protests. In other words, these people normally would have to go back to work at some point. And right now, I don't think, and don't get me wrong, is every kind of person out there, right? Black, white, yellow. There's all kinds of people are out protesting, men and women, young and old, and it's just this is a sign of how badly the economy has been hit by the shutdown. Okay, so it's like this. Here's my theory on protests, right? And protests, riots, civil unrest of any kind. It's the fire theory, right? You need oxygen, you need fuel, and you need a spark. And the fuel is the fact that everybody is unemployed.
Yep.
The fuel is the unemployment. The oxygen is basically the overall distaste for the way that police operate in the United States. And the specific spark in this case was the Floyd incident, right? So you have all these things come together and you have this kind of explosive fire rips across the country. Now, without the shutdown, this would not have been nearly the event that it is. Without the shutdown, there's no way this event would have happened. And I think that is what I didn't even know this, right? Like this is I knew it was a bad idea to shut down. I knew that it was unnecessary. I knew that it was going to hurt people. I did not realize that it would create a situation that could be sparked like this. And this is I mean, it was a little surprising, but it's not incomprehensible, right?
Well,
So
I don't know if it's a shut. I think it's a mixture of. I think that too. It's partly the lack of jobs. I think it's partly, but that's implying that you wouldn't have the care if everybody were working and making lots of money.
No. They would care, but they would have better things to do with their time. In other words, I am
We're
working
talking
every
about
day.
the riots, not the protests.
No. I'm talking about whatever, the civil unrest of any kind, right? So I'm talking about, okay, so the rioters almost specifically, some of them I think are targeted, right? And they're it's an opportunity that they're taking advantage of. Some of them were people who were, let's say, poor or not doing too well. And I mean, I remember watching the Target get looted, and one guy like grabbed a cart full of televisions and electronics of all kinds. And I'm like, that dude right there just stocked up his living room. You know, like he just.
I disagree. I think it's organized crime. I don't think that. I think that I don't want to.
I think it's crime, but it's anything but organized.
I think it's organized crime. I believe that organized crime specifically took advantage of, just like Antifa or people like Antifa dropped off bricks.
Well, listen, organized crime. You know, some of those they've actually tracked back to not being Antifa. They've specifically found that like there was one organization that put bricks in front of their building, thinking that they would stop people from driving a car into their building. So they had put basically these stacks of bricks, thinking it would be an automobile barrier. It turns out it was just a
Kindling.
projectile of opportunity.
Kindling for the fire.
I mean,
Kindling.
they came out. They said it did not work out at all the way they expected it to. They had no idea that people would use those bricks in that particular manner.
Oh, people will.
I tell you what,
People will.
I believe them because it happened to be a place of worship. So I totally believe that they had no idea that people were going to do that. They probably thought people would leave their bricks alone. They were not worth anything. They're not. Why would you steal bricks from a place of worship? Really?
Look, all I can tell you is
It seems obvious now that would be a bad idea. Next time, cement your bricks in place. But
I'll go back to what you were saying. I believe that the joblessness. I think you're right. That the joblessness has a lot to do with the anger.
Joblessness is kind of the fuel, right? Like, in other words, joblessness means there are bodies to go out in the street. The bodies are the fuel. The oxygen or the energy is provided by the feelings, right? The feelings that people have. And then the spark is the event that occurs. So it's the trifecta, right? And that's how you get a fire. And I think that's kind of a good understanding of how you get civil unrest.
Well, in Michigan, they stood on the which a lot of people aren't talking about, but in Michigan, they stood on the state Capitol steps with guns to protest. Have you heard about that?
Yeah.
Okay, so
And nothing happened.
and nothing happened at all. So
Well, I'll tell you what. One, the people with guns didn't break the law. They did everything right. And in fact, there was I think that one of the cool things about this, people often say, well, if there were black people out there with guns, they wouldn't have their rights respected. As it turns out, there was a group of black people up there as well, and they had their rights respected. And I think that is amazing, right? So here's the thing. You have people exercising their Second Amendment right, not breaking the law, and their rights are magically respected. It's magic. Like, as, you know that old SpongeBob GIF with the, it's magic. So anyway, their rights are magically respected.
I'm getting that one.
It's not magic. It's very simple. If you are armed and you are telling somebody, hey, I am not going to put up with a violation of my rights today, then they're not going to violate your rights. It's that simple. Like, their rights were respected because they were armed. And this is actually,
The First Amendment.
I think this goes back to something Jesus said.
The First Amendment. Let me interrupt you for a second.
Sure.
Then go back
but
to
we
that.
will go back to that.
The First Amendment
Right?
is for everybody to speak.
Uh-huh.
Second Amendment is
In case the first one doesn't work out.
exactly
Right.
And that's what. And go back to what you were saying.
So Jesus said, the meek shall inherit the earth.
Yeah.
Now, this is something that's really important. A lot of people don't know what meek means. And the most common understanding of meek is just weak. And that's not right. Because if it was the same word, they would use the same word. So meek is somebody like a Roman soldier who has a sword, knows how to use the sword, and then keeps it in the sheath.
Yes.
That's what meek is. And I'll tell you what, every time I see these 2A protesters, that is how they operate. They have their weapon, they absolutely know how to use that weapon, and they project that. Like, that knowledge is projected. Like, they know how to use it.
No.
And they know how to use it because they know how to be safe with it.
Now let me share this with you. If there were in Michigan only black people on those steps, there would have been problems. With guns. I guarantee you there would have been problems, because that's just not going to happen with black people, and then nobody bothers them, because let's face it, black man said he had gun in his car while he was, and they shot him and killed him.
That was one guy and one
anecdotal, but
police
my
officer.
point is that-
No. I'm not saying it's anecdotal. I'm saying that it was
That is
one
anecdotal.
guy.
That is actually
No, I
anecdotal.
understand. It is, but I'm not saying that's not my argument, right? What I'm saying is that if you've got 250 black men who are armed and also they're meek, right? They're exercising their right to bear
Then
arms
you call
with
the-
safety.
Then you would call the sheriff,
Nope.
and you would call the National
And
Guard.
the sheriff comes out and he says, you know what? This situation
Yeah, okay, try it.
is really dangerous, and I am not going to.
The National Guard is coming, I guarantee you.
Well, the National Guard doesn't get there in a day. The National Guard,
I know.
takes a while to.
But my point is that
But-
it's going to escalate real quickly. It's going to escalate quickly.
No.
I guarantee it.
Okay, but here's what I'm saying.
I can guarantee it's going to escalate.
I guarantee you it doesn't. And here's
With
why.
guns? Wait,
Here's
200
why. 250 armed men who happen to be black. And here's why it doesn't escalate.
Okay.
Because they can defend themselves if it does. And you are not going to find a fighting force that can take out 250 men without suffering severe damage. Even if you had armor APCs, armored personnel carriers, and all this other kind of stuff, you are not going to just run in and take out 250 armed men without casualties. You're going to find that there are going to be men who know how to deal with APCs. You're going to find that you have, APCs are just armored personnel carriers, right? So they're armored, so they're tough, and then they carry personnel from one place to another, but they don't actually engage in the combat for you. It's not a tank. It's not an aircraft. It's not a bomb. It's it'll get you from A to B. If you suffer small arms fire, you're probably going to be okay, but there are ways to defeat that, right? So you can attack its ability to carry troops. You can attack its ability to move from one place to another. It is first and foremost a vehicle, right? So you can disable vehicles. You know how to disable vehicles. You know how your car breaks down? Well, basically all that stuff can happen to an APC. You can affect the ability to see out the windows, which is one of the favorite tactics of our enemies overseas, right? Molotov cocktails are often laced with or have in them things like paint and sand, or one of my favorites, glitter. And that granular stuff, what they'll do is they'll throw it at the window, they'll smash it on the window, and then the windshield wipers have a hard time like with the granular and the fluids and everything. And then on top of that, it's probably also on fire. So you have the windshield wipers are probably catching on fire at the same time. So you have all this stuff. And these are effective tactics. And the thing is, if you have 250 men who are armed, I promise you within that crowd, you have men who understand how to take out an APC.
I would love to see that happen. I would love to see 250 black
I would
men
love to see it too.
gather on the steps of any capital
Here's the thing.
and
this
not be
is
bothered.
This is what I would love to see. I love to see it happen. I love to see when people exercise their Second Amendment rights. And one of the things that I see, that I perceive, is a divide, right? Even when we talk about this, I talk about the Constitution and you will respect my rights. And you talk about the Constitution and they're going to respect my rights. No. It's not they'll respect my rights. It's you will respect my rights because I will not allow anything else to happen.
Well, see, there you
And
go.
if you are in a group of 250 men, I promise you they will respect your rights, armed men. And I would like to see that, like, that divide between like you and me and white and black get bridged and have
It
more.
never will.
No, it will.
Never
it absolutely will.
I'll tell you why it never will.
Because I will make it happen.
No, you can't.
Because
I'll
I will
tell
not
you why.
allow them to
No, no,
violate your rights,
no,
Lou.
no. The fact is that, and that's good, but my point is that it's human nature to be clandestine, and I get that, and it's human nature to be unreasonable when you're with somebody who doesn't look like you. That's just the way we are. And
Well,
so, and
I don't
so
know that that's necessarily human nature.
it is
I
human
think,
nature.
okay,
I'll give you a prime example.
but you can. Oh,
I'll give you a prime example.
Okay.
This is what happens. It's a story that Anna tells. Anna used to live in Vallejo,
okay.
and she was dating this guy, right? He was a white guy, and he would pick her up, and he would talk about a neighborhood that he passed through, and he would say, "You know, that's a problem with black men." This is the last time she dated him. They're always hanging out on the corner instead of working. And he said, and she said,
Yeah, that's how you date a black woman, by the way. Is
and,
denigrate black women.
and he said, and she
Okay.
said, first of all, in that neighborhood, that's a black neighborhood,
Right.
most of those guys are third and fourth generation homeowners.
Okay.
And so if they want to stand in the corner after work, that doesn't mean they're jobless. But I think that's exactly
So you said it's the last time they went on a date?
that's the last time. She said she got rid of him immediately. But my point is that but when you're with somebody who looks different than you,
Right.
it's so easy to paint negative emotions. I mean, one of the things, and you see it. I mean, you see.
I love
how
the
you-
whole, like, you know, the problem with that people group over there is,
Yeah.
and it's like a cursory
That's what-
understanding of what's happening. Like, you just like make so many assumptions.
That's exactly
Well, you know,
what
but-
people do. I
Okay,
mean,
but people, okay, but I will say this. I will say
you
this
heard
in
Bloomberg.
defense of people.
You heard Bloomberg,
right?
That's exactly
I
how
heard
they
Bloomberg.
think.
But I'll say this in defense of people. Most people are not that bright. So, I mean, if you imagine like the average level of intelligence, and then, you know, half of people are not that bright.
And then they watch the media and they look at the media images
And then-
where you see black
But-
people unemployed or
Right.
loud and so and this and that
But
and that.
people think they have an understanding of the world. Like, that's the real problem. Most people think they understand, they have a good bead on life. And they think they understand the world and macroeconomic issues and all this other stuff. They think that they understand that stuff without having really spent much time putting their mind to it, without spending much time trying to, understand the world and how it works.
Listen, most people think like our president. Let me play my favorite thing that our president
Oh,
ever
this
said.
is a good one.
Nobody can do it like me. Nobody. Nobody can do it like me.
But
Nobody's stronger than me.
Nobody has better toys than I do.
There's nobody bigger or better at the military than I am.
Nobody loves the Bible more than I do. Nobody builds
Absolutely.
walls better than me. Nobody's better to people with disabilities than me.
Nobody's
I love
fighting
his
for
wall.
the veterans like I'm fighting for the veterans.
There's nobody that's done so much for equality as I have.
There's nobody more pro-Israel than I am.
There's
Well, maybe that
nobody
was
more
true.
conservative than me.
There is nobody that
Definitely
respects
not.
women more than I do. Nobody would
No.
be tougher on ISIS than Donald Trump.
Hey, you
Nobody's
can't
ever had
argue
crowds like
against that
Trump
one.
has had.
There's nobody that understands the horror of nuclear better than me. And nobody even understands it but me. It's called devaluation. The sale of
Now,
the
he
uranium
understands
that Nobody
devaluation.
knows what it means.
He went
I
from
know
a
what
billion
it
to not a
means.
billion,
Nobody
so
knows
he
more
knows
about trade than
devaluation.
me.
Nobody knows the game better than I do.
Nobody's
He
in
knows the
history of
game.
This
Definitely.
country has ever
Game
known so
recognizes
much
game
about
player.
infrastructure as Donald Trump.
I know the H-1B. I know the H-2B.
Go ahead,
Nobody
Donald.
knows it better than me.
Okay.
knows politicians better than I do.
So listen, there's a couple of those probably maybe he
Yeah,
could
I mean-
arguably say, but I understand like this guy goes off at the mouth and he says this stuff, and this is the thing, like
This is how people feel about their own knowledge. Nobody
no.
understands
Yeah,
the information
absolutely.
more than I do. I've heard it once or twice. Have I gone to school? No. Have I done any degrees in it? No. But I know it because I heard it on CNN. I heard it on Fox. I heard it on and it's true. Now I can make a now I can make a definite decision. And this is exactly how we think. Nobody. I understand it now. And I'm not wrong.
and I've never heard anybody give me a different opinion, so of course that means my opinion must be right. Yeah.
Yeah,
a
silence,
lack of
silence is consent.
a lack of differing or opposing beliefs
Silence is consent,
proves
man.
that my belief is the only belief that could exist.
Yeah, I mean, and if you disagree with me, God, you're an idiot. And I think that's why everybody. That's why, and I'm not for everything that Trump does. But what I'm saying is that when he's right, he's right.
Uh-huh.
When he's wrong.
Right.
Just because you want to disagree with it, in fact, at least give him the compliment sandwich. That's what they do at work.
Right. Well,
When they try that with me, I don't go for it. You know, Mr. Smith, we really like the fact that you're a hard worker.
but we're going to let you go because you remind somebody of somebody that she didn't like before.
Yeah.
But we think that you'll have great success in the future.
Yeah, I don't take
somewhere
compliments.
else.
Yeah. I remember one woman was trying to give me a compliment sandwich, and I said I don't receive that at all because I know what's coming after the compliment sandwich. So
That's
don't
why
try-
I try to do the underhand compliment. That's my thing. I always like, you, sir, are the grain of sand that inspires pearls. Right? Like that's my I don't get me wrong, I love that about you. But that's what I try to do. I don't give people straight compliments because that feels too
disingenuous.
It does. It feels
perhaps?
disingenuous and like I'm just trying to manipulative and butter people up and get what I want. I don't
Yeah.
want to do that. I just want to I appreciate you for very specific things, and I want to I feel like a compliment should come with a little bit of teasing. That's how it should work.
Well, that's just a brother in you. You can't help that. So
The older brother.
the elder brother. Okay, so I mean, I think we've talked about this really a lot, and I want to go home and go to sleep. But I mean, I just think that I mean, closing thoughts. What
It
do you
is
think?
that time. So we actually, I want to say this because we started late today, but we are actually going to try to be on a schedule with live streams, and we're going to try to start them at 7 p.m. on Thursdays from now on, 7 p.m., and we're going to promised an hour and a half. We may go longer, like this one is about 2 hours. So we're going to try to do that relatively consistently so that we can basically build an audience. That's one of our big things we want to do. And, if that works for you, put a comment in the description, or put a comment down below and, let us know you'll be here.
Hey, tell your friends.
All right, you guys we're going to head out. You have a great night. And, Lou, you got any more sounders for us?
Yes.
We're going to leave you with a sound.
Trending insurrection.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Bye for now.